amigos, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for checking out my new video. I also want to say a big thanks to everyone who watched my last video. A few of you in the comments asked some really great questions, so I figured rather than answering them in the comments where not everybody might notice, I thought I would record a Q&A video today to answer some of the comment questions and give you a little update on how things have been here. I know in my last video I didn't give a whole lot of detail about what's been happening, but I thought this would be a great time to do it. Got some green tea here. So I'll start off with a question from Toby O, and they ask, how have you made friends? So I'm really glad to say that I have more friends here than I did in Halifax, where we used to live. I hesitate to say more only because I did have a good circle of friends in Halifax, but I found that living the suburban life, working and everything, I just didn't see those friends as often. And so I wouldn't say I was as close to those people. I mean, we kept in touch and we saw each other as often as we could, but we weren't getting together as often as I do here with friends. So it's been really great to be in a place where I feel like I have friends that I'm seeing or speaking to just about every week. Some people more often than others, of course. But how did I meet those friends? So before we came to Malaga, I was doing a lot of research on ways to meet people. And of course, my favorite resource was, as I mentioned last week, Facebook groups. And scrolling around on Facebook, I came across a Malaga photography club. So I joined the club well before we actually arrived in Malaga. And they had a WhatsApp group, so I was in the group on there and just keeping my ear to the ground on what things were going on in the group. So as soon as we got here, I attended some events and I met some really great people in that club. So that's one way that I found some friends. And I would say that if you're coming here and you have any sort of specific hobby, you will definitely find a group of people who participate in that hobby as well. So that's one way to find people. I also joined Bumble BFF, and I have to give credit to my friend Steven, who came to Malaga with us when we came last summer. He suggested Bumble BFF as something he was doing. So essentially, it's a dating style app, and they do have a dating side to it, but they also have BFF, which is a way to meet friends. So it's the same as on like Tinder, where you just flick through profiles, and if you match with somebody, you can talk to them. So I met quite a few wonderful women on there, and I still am friends with many of them today. I'm not actively on the app anymore because I met enough people that I just didn't feel the need to continue meeting new friends. But if I do feel the urge in the future, then I would always go back to that because I found that it was a really good way to find people that were into the same things as me and had, in some cases, similar backgrounds, and in some cases, totally different backgrounds. Another really neat thing is that I have one friend. She messaged me on Instagram after watching one of my YouTube videos, and she seemed really cool. They were about to arrive in Malaga, moving here, so we ended up meeting up once she got here. She messaged me and we went for a coffee, and it's been great. We've been friends ever since. So if anybody watching my videos is in the Malaga area and is interested in getting together, then I'll put the invitation out to send me a message on Instagram. That's definitely the easiest way to reach me so that we can chat back and forth. And my Instagram is at Melissa E. Morse. And yeah, I'd love to hear from people. You just never know who you're going to meet on the internet, and hopefully none of you are actually serial killers. Tobio also asked, how do you find new doctors? So I will say that thankfully I haven't needed a doctor since we've been here. We have gone for our vaccinations, and that's done through the health system. So we had to get registered at the health center, and then once we had our health registration, we could go get our vaccination at the walk-in clinic. Other than that, I haven't actually seen like a medical doctor yet. When we registered at the health center, we were assigned a doctor, so if we ever needed to see one, we could go there, although I fully assume they aren't going to speak English, so that would present a little bit of a problem. My husband's job provided us with health insurance that's supplementary to the public insurance coverage that we have because he's working here, so therefore we get to be in the Spanish health system. And because of that, we get a list of doctors that accept that insurance, so we can seek out somebody on our own. And the insurance company provided us with a list of names of doctors who speak English in a bunch of different specialties. So hopefully when the time comes, which will be very soon, it'll be time for me to get a checkup and a couple other things. So yeah, I'm gonna refer to that list and just try and book somebody through there and see how it goes. Also, if we needed emergency health care, we could go to either the emergency room at one of the local hospitals, or our health insurance has their own medical center that we could also go to. Again, thankfully, we haven't needed to look into that yet, but I'm sure the time will come. Healthcare is important, and thankfully we have a lot of different options here that we didn't necessarily have in Nova Scotia based on the way their healthcare system works. And because I haven't interacted with the health system a whole lot yet, I can't speak to the quality, but all the reviews I've seen and people's comments in Facebook groups say that the healthcare here is excellent. So I take comfort knowing that if the time comes, or when the time comes, we'll be well taken care of. And the other thing I've heard is that people are available in the hospitals to do translating. I think it's more of a volunteer service, and I think there's maybe some hitches there. You have to pre-book it, and there's other things. I haven't obviously had to do it yet, but I know that service is available. So that's the other thing. If you end up needing to deal with doctors in Spanish, then an interpreter might be available. So something to look into if you're in that situation. The other really great question that Toby O asked is, how are you learning Spanish? So we have been here about 11 months now. I'm feeling less confident about my Spanish than I hoped I would at this phase, but I'm also pleased that I'm in a class now that is rating me as a high A1, almost A2 level Spanish, which is so awesome. Her assessment of my level was a little higher than I expected, so that was really nice to hear. So basically, when we first got here, Trevor's company assigned me to a Spanish teacher that they provided, which was a really nice little perk. And those were online classes twice a week on Skype. It was pretty good, although I was struggling a lot because I found that I wasn't enjoying online classes and that I wasn't getting a lot out of it. I found that it was really hard, a hard way for me to learn. It wasn't feeling like it was very effective. Prior to moving to Spain, we actually spent probably a year and a half learning Spanish on Duolingo. And I won't say that was an entire waste of time. I do think that any learning is useful. Something we didn't realize up front is that Duolingo uses Mexican Spanish, and Spain does have quite a few differences from Mexican Spanish. So some of the vocabulary is different. There's a whole other word in the list of conjugations that's only typically used in Spain. So just a few things that are different. And I also found that the comprehension part of it was difficult because Mexican Spanish is spoken a little bit more clearly and simplistically, whereas it seems that in Andalusia, people speak really fast. They have a bit of a dialect here. They drop the S's on words a lot. So when you're listening to people in the street speaking Spanish, it's really, really hard to understand what they're saying. So I think that while Duolingo was definitely useful, especially in regards to vocabulary, it probably didn't get us as far along in learning as we had hoped that it would. But we did have a small basis. So when I started my Spanish class, I felt like at least I didn't start from zero. But I didn't make progress as quickly as I hoped I would. I found at that point that I wasn't able to speak as much as I wanted to. The class was very heavy on grammar and teaching us the fundamentals of Spanish, which I totally acknowledge is very important, but also I didn't find that I was getting enough opportunity to actually speak. That class ended for Christmas, and after Christmas I didn't go back to it. And I took a little break after that, trying to figure out what was my next move going to be. I debated if I would want to go to an intensive Spanish class. So there are some Spanish schools in the city that do 20 to 30 hours a week of learning. And they typically cater towards people from out of town that move here specifically to learn Spanish and really immerse themselves. So one nice thing is I would get to meet people and speak a lot of Spanish, and the cost actually wasn't very high considering the level of learning that it achieves. But I just felt like I wasn't ready to commit that much time to it. I had a lot of other things on the go that I didn't want to give up that much of my time. And I was also afraid that it would be too much and that I would get too overwhelmed and it would be very anxiety inducing. So I didn't opt to go that route. And then I was speaking with some friends, kind of, I guess, complaining a little bit about how I wasn't feeling like I knew what I wanted to do next, but I needed to be in a class because I did not want to be one of those people that was here and not making an effort to learn. My friends suggested a teacher that they had used, and her name is Clara, and she's the owner of Speak and Learn, which I will link in the description box below. She is fantastic. I reached out to her. She responded saying that they were actually offering 1 week of free classes to bring in new students. So it was just perfect timing. And I met up with her. The other person or two people that were supposed to come didn't make it, so it ended up being a one-on-one. And we sat for about an hour and we just talked to each other, and she did a small little lesson just to give me an example of the style that she uses for learning. So it's conversational Spanish, and it's done in cafes around the city. There's usually no more than 5 students. In my case, there's me, and the beginning there were 2 other students, and now it's just me and 1 other student. And complete luck that we all ended up being relatively similar in our experience and our vocabulary. So it's working out really, really well. I love that we get to talk a lot. So she starts off by, we just chit chat, we talk about our week or our weekend, what we've been up to, just a chance to have small talk and practice speaking. And if we struggle with anything, she just helps us through it. So it's not about being perfect and using perfect grammar. It's about saying words and stringing together sentences, and then she'll correct us as we go and also make note of things we're saying wrong. We carry on to a lesson of the week, which she'll pick up one topic or another, and we'll go through that, and she'll give examples of what she's teaching, usually a little bit grammar related, but not like heavy pulling out books and writing sentences and stuff. It's more just practical grammar. And then for the rest of the class, we just do exercises and speaking and using the lesson that she taught us. And then at the very end, she goes back through the list of things she jotted down that we said a little bit incorrect, and does a review where we get a chance to pick out the errors that we made, which is really, I find really helpful, because it's forcing us to look at a sentence and go, okay, so what is wrong with this phrase? And it's a really good learning opportunity, and it points out things that I'm often doing over and over incorrectly. Not in the sense of trying to, shame us or call us out for saying something wrong, but more so just to help us remember for next time. And after attending a few classes with Clara, I've already noticed a huge improvement in my confidence, because I always say that I feel like I know more Spanish in my head than my tongue knows. So it's one thing to read Spanish and pick out words that you know and understand a concept, but it's something entirely different to string together those words and say them out loud. Because the people here do tend to speak very fast, it's quite intimidating, and I find my brain just sort of shuts down. So if I walk into a situation where I'm prepared and I have a phrase ready to go, I'm asking a question or something, I'll say it, and then they'll either rhyme off something in response to me, and I'm like, I don't understand what you're saying to me, and my brain just completely shuts down and I can't muster a single word after that. Or they respond to me in English, which is a relief, but also not as helpful for trying to learn. So my favorite interactions are the ones in places that tend to have a lot of tourists, where they are willing to speak in Spanish, but they recognize that we aren't Spanish, and they do their best to speak slowly, maybe mix in some English words, so that it helps us learn and practice. And I just love anybody that's willing to take the time. And I think that if they can acknowledge that we're trying and they're helping us, that is like the absolute best. And there's a couple businesses around that I'll go to again and again just because I've had that experience. So tip, if you are a business owner in Malaga and you make it really friendly to help tourists learn Spanish, you're going to get repeat business from people like me. Another person who commented, SH7, said, what are the best places to live for a student? School is in the Centro. So it sounds like they are coming here to learn Spanish for, I think, 9 months, they wrote in the comment. And they're asking where they should live. There are quite a few areas that I would suggest. A lot of it's going to depend on budget. However, I realize that sometimes budget isn't really obvious until you know what the ranges are going to be. So the first thing I would suggest is looking on Idealista, which is a website I will link in the description box. That's a great place to look for real estate in Spain and specifically in Malaga. And it breaks it down by neighborhoods. So some neighborhoods you might consider, obviously the Centro, which you know is where your school's located. There is a lot of appeal to living in the Centro because it's very central and you won't need to worry about transportation. However, of course, it is a lot more costly. And it can be very noisy in a lot of areas, so something to make sure that you're either willing to put up with noise or that you do your research to figure out if your apartment happens to be on a busy street with bars or if it's near nightclubs. Those are things that are going to be probably bothersome at night when you're trying to sleep, so definitely something to think about. Merced is another area. It's almost the Centro, it's on the outer edge of the Centro, but it's an area that's popular with students. Purchell is another area that is where El Corte Inglés is located. It's just basically the neighborhood that's on the other side of the river from the Centro. So it's, depending where you are in Purchell, it's very close to the Centro, so at the most 10 minutes away. And a little bit cheaper because it's not right in the center of things. And the other advantage of Purchell or in Soho, which is the neighborhood that I am in, is that they're accessible by car. So in the Centro, you can't access that area by car unless you have a special pass for your personal car. The thing about being where cars can drive is that you get traffic noise, but also it means that you can get picked up by Uber in front of your place. You can have deliveries made right to your door. So there are definitely advantages of not being in the Centro where cars are not able to drive. The other area that a lot of students like is Teatinos, and it is an area near the Malaga University. Some areas of Teatinos are a little bit newer, so there's some high-rise buildings that are being built out there. Some of those buildings have pools and gardens. It is on the Malaga Metro line, so it's a good place if you need to commute. It's really easy, maybe 10-minute journey to get to other areas of Malaga. I would also suggest checking out on the map where you can live that's along the Malaga Metro route. So there's 2 lines that go to different areas of the city, and anything that's near a metro stop is going to be really convenient because in a few months, before August they're saying, a new stop is going to be opening, well, 2 new stops I believe, on the Malaga Metro. So there will now be a metro stop right to the Centro. And currently the closest stop to the Centro is at the Malaga train station, which is about 10, maybe 12, 14-minute walk from the Centro, depending which area you're going to in the Centro. And because it's a little bit of a walk, that makes it less convenient to use the Metro. But now that there's going to be a stop right to the Centro, it means that you could potentially live anywhere on the Metro line and very easily and quickly and affordably commute to the Centro every single day. And definitely living in one of those areas will be a lot less expensive than living in the Centro itself. The other thing you can do if you're looking for apartments is post on some of the Facebook groups that I referenced in my last video, which I'll link up in the eye above. And those Facebook groups will sometimes have posts from people that are looking to share a room with somebody, if that's an option that you're considering, or if they have apartments they want to rent. And you can also post yourself if you're looking. Sometimes you'll find things there, sometimes not, but it never hurts to ask and see what you get. SH7 also asked, what's the cost of living for a student? I personally don't know because we're in a different situation at the moment, but I checked it out on numbeo.com. It's a website that talks about the cost of living in different areas. And they're saying that the estimated average for a single person is about just over 600 euros a month, and that's above your rent. So that 600 euros a month would cover your expenses like your utilities. It would cover groceries and occasional eating out, a little bit of extra for entertainment and transportation using public transport. It gives you a rough idea. That would be, I would say, the low end of costs. If you like to eat out a lot, if you like higher end restaurants, if you're very social, if you're drinking a lot, all those things, of course, would raise the amount. But I suggest clicking around on numbeo.com just to see what they're using for their averages. Nice thing about that website is it shows the costs of various typical groceries and things. So you're able to get a feel for the things that you would typically spend money on and how much that will cost you. I will say that rent typically seems to range 300 to 400 euros for a room if you're going to share. That's based on being in the very center of Malaga. I saw an ad the other day posted on Facebook for a group of women looking for a new roommate, and I believe it was a 3-bedroom apartment. They were looking for a third roommate for a private room, and they were posting it as 325 euros a month, I think, and that included all utilities and everything. So that would be for a very central location near the beach. And I'm guessing 700 to 800 euros for a 1-bedroom apartment, maybe a little bit more right in the centro, just depends on the area you're in. And if you're outside the main area of the city and you're willing to commute, you could be looking at maybe 600 a month, 700 a month for a decent little place. So quite affordable rent, even though prices are going up quickly. And the other thing I'll say is that we're now coming into tourist season and it will be more difficult to find a place. And that's just the reality of things right now. I've been hearing that didn't get a lot better, even off season this year, but it will certainly get harder coming soon because a lot of long-term rentals convert to short-term vacation rentals in the summer. All those landlords want to capitalize on as much rent as they can squeak out of their places. So it looks like the availability goes way, way down once that season hits, unfortunately. My friend Kylie asked, can you do a walking tour of Malaga? Of course. That sounds like it would be really fun. I do have a GoPro style camera, so maybe I'll play around with strapping that on and walking around a little bit and then do a voiceover explaining the things that I'm passing. That would be a really fun video to make, so leave it with me and hopefully I can pull that together soon. Some other questions that I don't know who asked, but I went back through comments and DMs that I've had just to see what other people were asking. Best place to buy furniture and household items. So I'm very familiar with this topic because we had to furnish our entire apartment in a very short time. And my top places were IKEA, classic, easy, good prices. Cheap delivery, well, I say cheap, I think we paid about 99 euros, so not super cheap, but when you're getting a few $1,000s worth of stuff at once, that's pretty affordable, and they bring it right to the door, which is great. Another little Spanish store that's, I think, a chain is called Cave Home, and they have a shop right here in Malaga. It's kind of a showroom, and they have beautiful modern stuff. I would say their prices are significantly higher than IKEA, but still not unreasonable. I wouldn't call it luxury or anything. And they have really nice modern styles. That's where we got our dining room table and chairs and a few other little things throughout the place that I love. Maison du Monde, it's, I believe, a French company, but they have a location here in Malaga beside the IKEA. Maison du Monde would be comparable to, I guess, HomeSense or Home Goods in North America. And it's a lot of decor pieces and inexpensive furniture. Lamps, cushions, throw blankets, that kind of stuff. Really great selection. They have beautiful stuff and things for every style. So if you're looking for things to decorate with, as well as Yisk is another option, a little bit similar to IKEA, but on a much smaller scale, but they do have pretty affordable stuff. El Corte Inglés, that's where we got a big load of stuff for our kitchen specifically. I would compare them to Hudson's Bay Company in Canada. It's a department store, but it is what I would say is a little bit more high-end luxury. Not ridiculously expensive, but they sell brand names, so you of course get the brand name prices. But they do have their own in-store brand that's a little bit more on the lower price scale. And they have really great quality stuff. So, and they also have delivery. So I ordered a lot of things for our kitchen, especially on the website, and had it delivered to the apartment. And I believe that over, I forget what the threshold is, but if you over a certain amount, it's free delivery, and you can just schedule your delivery for same day. So it was delivered usually within a couple of hours, which was amazing because obviously without a vehicle, it was really nice that we could have things brought to the door. Amazon, hate to support them. Not a fan of Jeff Bezos, but at the end of the day, sometimes certain things, especially when we first moved here, certain things, I just didn't know where to get them, plain and simple. Where do you get XYZ? Unfortunately, we still do rely on Amazon more than I'd like to admit because of the convenience and also just getting things that we don't know where else to buy. And I have bought a couple of small furniture pieces from there, which was pretty convenient. And the other website I've used for a few things is Sklum. I believe I got this lamp from Sklum and a few other pieces throughout. That's another spot. And then the last place would be Etsy. I bought all of this artwork on Etsy. I just got digital downloads and had them printed at a local photo print shop. So there's great stuff on Etsy and of all kinds, and you can narrow it down to places within the EU, which means you won't have to pay any import taxes. That is something I'd like to touch on quickly, is that anything shipped in outside of the EU will be subject to import taxes, and they can be astronomical, and you don't know this until the person delivers it to your door. So do not order anything outside of the EU. It's not worth it. Trevor bought a backpack suitcase thing from the US. This was the first thing that we ordered outside of the EU. And the item, it was a pricey item. I think the bag was maybe $300 or something like that. But he paid, I think it was 150 euros in import taxes. Another question, what is your favorite thing about living in Malaga? This is a hard one to answer because there are so many things I love here, but I would have to say the top thing is that it is sunny almost every day. We wake up and it's just blue skies and sunny. That's not the case 365 days a year, but I would say at least 300 days a year, if not more. And it's just such a different experience for me to wake up and know that it's just going to be nice every single day. And you don't really have to think too much about the weather. We just came off of winter, which in Malaga is a little bit more unpredictable. It does rain a bit more and there are more gray days. But ever since I got back from the Netherlands a couple weeks ago, it's just been warm and sunny every single day. And that is a real treat. It makes it feel like we're on vacation every single day. You know, we still got things to do, chores and errands and things that aren't necessarily fun, but I still feel like it's always a vacation just because it's such good weather. The other thing I really love here is that, which maybe isn't so much specific to Malaga itself, but just our situation, is that we live in the center of it all. And as I said before, we lived a suburban life, so we lived in a suburban neighborhood with a big SUV, and you know, we had a little house and everything that we needed was a car drive away. There was nothing close by. So the fact that now I can step out my door and there's a pharmacy in the lower level of the building, there's a small grocery store immediately next to our building, there's a main grocery store about 100 meters up the street. So I can get everything I need within a few minutes on foot. And I just love that. It makes it feel so urban and European to me to just be able to take my little cart and walk to the grocery store and get what I need. I really just love that the food that we're eating is really fresh and I'm not filling my cart at Costco and loading up my trunk and stocking up for 2 weeks. I do enjoy shopping, so that helps, of course, that I'm out doing that almost every day or every couple of days. And also I can have anything I need delivered right to our apartment as well. So occasionally I do get a little lazy and I don't feel like going out to the store, so I can just order what I need on Glovo or from El Corte Inglés and it's brought to my door. So again, not specific to Malaga, but it's something that's circumstantial about the life that we've built for ourselves here, and I really love that. And I guess the last one, because this video is getting long, is what's my favorite food in Malaga? So again, this is a tough question because I once read, and don't quote me on this, but I once read that there are something like 750 restaurants in Malaga City. Like, wow, that's a lot of restaurants. So because of that, it's really hard to pick a favorite, but one place that we go back to time and time again is a little place called Canberra. And it is at Muay Uno, which I'm actually looking out the window at that restaurant right now across the harbor. And I would call it Spanish fusion. So their menu has a lot of typical Spanish food, but with a little bit of a twist. So they take the flavors and the types of food that are common here in Spain and just jazz them up a little, add kind of a little element of fine dining to the food. So because it's at Muay Uno, which is the port, it's a beautiful location to be able to see the water, which is lovely. And the decor in the restaurant is beautiful. The prices are a little bit higher than the average, so that's something to keep in mind. But when we have guests in town or when Trevor's entertaining coworkers, that's where we take them because it's somewhere that they can get a really good first taste of Malaga dining. And the service there is really good too. And because it's on the port, they all speak English, so it's really easy to manage in the restaurant. My favorite Spanish foods, again, how do I narrow it down? But I came up with 3 things. So patatas bravas is basically fried potatoes or sometimes whole baby potatoes if they're getting really fancy about it. And it usually has kind of a spicy red sauce as well as an alioli or an aioli in English. Just a really simple dish, but every restaurant has their own sort of spin on how the sauce tastes. There are even places that fry their potatoes with tempura to make them even crunchier and more delicious. So I love patatas bravas. I also love huevos rotos, which is French fries topped with a fried egg and jamón, so thinly sliced ham that's cured and kind of sometimes big slices or little thin strips mixed with the egg and the potato. Oh, it's so good. It's like, feels a little bit breakfasty, but also savory, and usually the egg is runny yolk, which I love. It kind of coats the fries and just that touch of greasy diner food in a way, but so good. If that's on the menu, that's often what I'll get. The other thing that's kind of a tapas food that I really love is berenjenas. Berenjenas. The J is supposed to be a but I'm not good at pronouncing it that way. Berenjenas. That was a word that took me, even though I'm still saying it wrong, it took me a long time to wrap my tongue around. Basically, berenjenas con miel is little sticks or rounds of eggplant that are battered and then deep fried, and then they pour what they call honey, but I would call it more like molasses over the top. And oh my God, I can eat a whole plate of those myself. They're so good. And I do really like eggplant anyway, so that of course explains why I love it, but also it's just that nice combination of crunchy and soft in the middle, and then you add the sweetness. It's like sweet and savory. Oh, so good. Don't eat them a lot, but when I do, it's one of my favorite things. I think that's all I'm going to talk about right now. I could go on for days, but if you have any more questions, I'd love to do this again. So leave them in the comments below and I will either answer you there or I will continue a list of things and do another Q&A video. If there's anything else you'd like to see, definitely let me know. I want to make the videos that you want to see. I would love also if you would follow me on Instagram. I do post in stories there a lot, so you can follow me on Instagram at Melissa E. Morse. I will link that in the description box as well. And then you can also DM me on Instagram if you wanted to directly ask me a question or reach out for any reason. And give this video a like. I would also really love it if you would subscribe and hit the notification bell to see when I upload new videos. Those things all go a really long way to help my channel grow. I thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a great day and I will see you in my next video. Adios, amigos.